Setting up your accounts once you've created your new data file. Once you've created your data file, you might want to go in and make some adjustments to the chart of accounts you selected that was closest to what you wanted. Now you can either do this straight away after you've created the data file from the Setup Assistant, or if you want to think about it a bit further and do it a little bit later, you can go back into the Setup Assistant by going Setup, Easy Setup Assistance and Accounts, and then select Next. The other way you can make changes to your chart of accounts is to simply go to, from the Accounts Command Center, Accounts List, and set up and select New and add your account there. Or you might want to go to, say, an expense account. If you double click on it, you can actually change the title, or you can even change the tax code, which is really useful later on when you're allocating your payments or income or anything like that, to make sure that it's calculating GST if it's supposed to, if it's free, if it's supposed to be free, or if it's a capital purchase, or whatever tax code is supposed to be. Now remember how we talked earlier in the tutorial for creating a data file about how you want to think about your chart of accounts, and that how in MYOB assets start with a 1, liabilities start with a 2, and so on. Well, this is where this really comes into play. Now I'm going to use the Easy Setup Assistance to make some changes to this chart of accounts that we started earlier. So I'm going to go Next, and you've got option for New, Edit, Delete or Import. Don't worry about import. So I might create a new one and show you how to do that. Now I want to put a new expense account in that I know is not on the chart of accounts for bookkeeping. So I noticed here that all my general and admin expenses are up the top, and I want to put it between legal fees and bank charges. So I might decide to call it 1150. So I select New, and an account number starting with 6 is coming up for me because it's an expense account. So I'll put the number in here and hit Tab, and I'll name it Bookkeeping. I will go to my details and make sure that's GST and select OK, and that's it. So let's edit an account now, guys. So I might go up here and name my bank account CBA and select OK. It's that simple. Now let's delete one. Let me have a look down here. What wouldn't I need? Let's see. I might decide I don't need a bank card, credit card. So I open it up. There you go. I don't have a bank card, so I don't need that. So I've got it highlighted here, and I'll just hit delete. And there you go. It's almost gone straight away. Now the one thing you have to remember to do is go and set up all your GST codes in your chart of accounts. Now I'll do a few here to show you. Now this improvement cost is a capital expense, so you want the GST code to be CAP. So you double click on it, go to details, at tax code you would select CAP. Now you notice here that it will automatically make any improvements that cost the tax code of CAP, with 10% being GST, and then you would select Use Tax Code. And OK, now another one might be here in your accounting fees. If you go to details, it says NR, so you must make that GST. It's not a capital expense, but it is a GST expense, so you would select OK. Now you're going to have to do that for all of your accounts. You have to do it for all your asset accounts, all your income accounts. So your consulting fees here, you need to go in and make GST. Your cost of sales or your cost of sales accounts here, you need to go in and make GST. You have to do this for all the accounts within your chart of accounts that aren't NT, because MYOB will default NT when you create the data file. Now another interesting thing MYOB has in it is header and footer accounts. Now, if you have a look at the expense area here, you see that the account bolded is actually a header account. So we've got expenses as the main account, then we've got general and admin expenses as the header account, you could say. So within here, all these items under it are actually general and administration expense items. And when you run your profit and loss or other reports, you can run it just to show the header ones. Now, I might create another header and sub accounts in this chart of accounts. I'm going to select it for motor vehicle expenses. So I'm going to start that as a 6-6000 for the header account. So I'll select new, and I'm going to have it as a header account, and it's going to be 6000, and we'll call this motor vehicle expenses, and select OK. That's all you need to do there. So within motor vehicle expenses, I might like to have a sub account, say called fuel. So I'll call that 6001, and we'll call that fuel. Now fuel usually has GST in it, so I'm going to select GST. If you're not registered for GST, you would make that free. But let's say this set of books is, and then I'd select OK, and there's your fuel. And then I might like to have another account, which is a detail account again, and I'll call that 6002, and I might put motor vehicle repairs. And in details here, put the GST code in, and there we have motor vehicle expenses with two sub accounts or detail accounts, which when you run your reports, as I said earlier, you can run it so it just shows the total of all your motor vehicle accounts in motor vehicle expenses. That's it for the initial setup of your chart of accounts. I'll explain other areas within the chart of accounts, such as linked accounts, in other tutorials.